Hi, it's Lee Evans here. This is my weekly video log where I really aim to live my purpose, which is to impact people in positive, lasting ways as much as I can. And this is one of the ways I'm going to get that out to more people than I can possibly ever see face to face, in person or online in sessions and things like that, is one of these video logs. So I hope that you will join me on this journey. In this session here today, I aim to do three things. One is to really talk about why I am doing this. Why does somebody want to impact other people in positive, lasting ways as their main kind of life's work, and why that is relevant for me. I'm going to share something about myself and why I have come to this conclusion. This is my life's work. I'm also going to then share with you the kind of challenges that I'm facing now at the moment on this journey, which is a real transition for me from taking my message a lot with who I can see face to face or online in my time, into now spreading this further in a different way. So video messaging being one, and other ways to impact people in a wider reach, and the challenges with that, which there are some for me. And then finally, I'm going to add some value to your life, hopefully, because what I'm talking about here is developing habits, good habits, patterns of thinking, things that become automatic and are very satisfying, driving your performance whilst maintaining your health, building your relationships even stronger, rather than what usually happens is somebody throw themselves into something very passionately and then everything else falls apart. High performance over the long term, to coin Brendan Burchard's phrase, is sustainable whilst building health, relationships and striving towards your goals. So to start then, is the kind of sharing part for me is why do I want to impact you and as many people as I possibly can watching this video in positive and lasting ways. Well, I think anybody that gets to that kind of point in their life and that conclusion and that realization must have had the value of life. They must have recognized the value of life in some real meaningful way. And I have in a number of ways. Partly this is because although I didn't know this all of my life, when I was 15 I lost my mother to suicide, and you know, that's something that impacts somebody but also makes you kind of realize life is precious. You know, it's here now and gone tomorrow in some cases, and if we know that, we've got to kind of make the most of every second, every moment that we've got in a positive, vibrant, contributing kind of way, because otherwise we're wasting it. So that was one kind of recognition and realization as I reflect back on how I've arrived at wanting to value life, value other people's lives, really impact other people and contribute to their life, to their success in a lasting way, because life is precious. I also, as part of my life, have served for a number of years, not anymore, in the military, and in Afghanistan in particular conflicts, I saw life being distinguished. So life of people who are trying to hurt us, and we could say were, you know, opposing forces, but also life that was on our side, our force, our friends, our kind of comrades, our kind of team. And I saw life being distinguished, extinguished. And sometimes I struggle to kind of say this needlessly, you know, with no real lasting impact, with some kind of we're going to do this today and we're going to aim to clear this here, and you know, then it will make it better. But it doesn't make it any better, and now we have some people who have lost their lives, and they have sons, they have brothers, they are sons of people, they are husbands or wives, and all of these things, and it means a lot when you see that gone in an instant for no reason. There's another kind of realization for me when I saw that kind of life just extinguished in a second. I thought, again, life is meaningful, is precious, is valuable. Let's really make the most of it. Let's live. Let's actually connect and live a good life. So those two kind of things really, have formed and shaped my thinking, as well as then, also having left the military, then thrown myself into running my own business, and really becoming absorbed and passionate about a topic to the point where I can recognize, and many people do this, lose the balance. They kind of lose their focus, their energy on the things that are really important to them, like their family, like the relationships with their friends, like spending time with loved ones, and spending time on your health, maintaining exercise, sleeping enough, and all of those kinds of things. And I also kind of recognized before it was too late that I was going down a certain path here, and that's not life. I'm not going to, at the end of my life, look back and go, I'm glad I spent all of those hours working and missed out on this. And thankfully, it was a very brief kind of reminder for me, which came later after the two formative experiences I just talked about. So that's why I have really come to the conclusion what my purpose is here on this life, or what I want to spend my precious resources doing, my time and my energy, the two most precious resources we have. I want to spend my time and my energy impacting people in positive and lasting ways, including myself. That's the part that lots of people forget. Impact people, including myself, in positive and lasting ways. And that really is how I came to the conclusion of my purpose. You can see it on my website. It's very real, it's very authentic. It's how I make decisions on what I'm going to do with my time and energy now, including this video where I'm sharing with you here. So the second part I talked about then was to, given that, realize that actually while I was working with people individually face to face, while I was running corporate kind of training where I am there in the room, where I'm doing online sessions, which I still do now, I could only reach a certain amount of people, and I want to reach more people. I want to impact more people. So that's what I'm now transitioning to work out the best method. So it's almost like I have my message, which basically is that life is amazing, you are amazing, you have so many resources that you can use and learn to develop. And that's the kind of message, and my meaning really is to impact as many of those people as I can, but really it's the method I'm working out now as we speak. So how do I take this to another level? And that's a challenge. That is about understanding how to build funnels on websites, for instance. How does somebody exchange their email, give it to me, and then move into a sequence where I can add real value on real training videos and really get that dropping into their inbox while I'm asleep or while I'm doing something else. And those kind of processes are one of the things I'm now facing as a challenge. The other thing is to live this high-performing life, which I am very much dedicated to live. So it means I am, spending time with my family, spending time with friends, recognizing them, spending time journaling, spending time exercising at least 5 times a week, eating well, all of these kind of habits I'm developing, as well as now learning how to get this message out further, have the bigger impact than I have had up to now. So that's the kind of challenge, and anyone who's done this kind of thing before, you'll know that social media is kind of evolving all of the time, and you get to a certain kind of age, not that I'm ancient, but things are almost like, yikes, I don't know how to do that. So that's some of the challenge I'm working through now. The final part, which is where I want to really add some value for you here, is to talk very briefly about habits. Because if you want to develop habits, you have to understand how they work. And there are 3 component parts to habits. It's very simple. There is a trigger or an identification, okay? Call it the trigger to a habit. There is then a routine that you attach to that habit. There is then a high of some kind, a psychological high. They're the 3 component parts of habits: a trigger, a routine, and a high. If you use the example of bad habits, which are quite common, everybody has, well, not everybody has, but so many people have. If you use smoking as an example, it's very clear to see the component parts in operation. You can have the trigger, which is, let's say, stress. Okay, the routine when somebody then feels stressed to be able to cope because they feel like they can't is to pick up a cigarette and to start smoking. Now, that routine does a number of things to give them a high, a reward. Firstly, the reward, the third component part, comes from a trick of the reward center. So there are chemicals released that make them feel good, but they're very transient. They last. It's a trick of your reward center in the brain. So these chemicals will flood you with kind of dopamine and relaxation kind of feeling where you feel slightly better for that time when you're actually doing that in that moment. It's transient and it goes away. The second win that they'll get from that, the reward, is they've stepped away from whatever the thing was that was stressing them out. That doesn't mean they have to be smoking, but a part of smoking means they have to step away from that thing. So there's a kind of release from that, a temporary relief, another temporary one which they're going to go back to. The third thing is, generally now you've got to step outside, you've got to go into fresh air. Okay, and although they might not be breathing that fresh air very fully, filling that air with carbon monoxide and all the things that are poisoning them inside, really, there's another win. There's something that says I'm out in fresh air, outdoors and nature and outside. That kind of gives me a relief and a release from that thing. So there's a high and a kind of feeling of reward. That's the third part. Now you can quite quickly see how the trigger and the high become interlinked, and the routine just takes care of itself, becomes automatic. That's what a habit is, something I do automatically without thinking. So next time the stress comes along, my mind is craving that release, that relief, that temporary relief I had, which is the high. So it now recognizes the pathway is that routine. Okay, so now I don't have to think about that I'm smoking. In fact, most people are not thinking about what they're doing when they're smoking, because if they did, they would be thinking about how this tastes, disgusting, what I'm actually doing here, carbon monoxide poisoning me, addicting myself to something I can't get rid of, fueling an evil industry that kind of, puts young kids out in fields that all the tobacco leaves and everything goes into their skin and makes them die early. All of that, if I actually thought about what I was doing, I'd be kind of horrified and maybe stop doing it. But we don't think. That's the habit. That's the point. There's a trigger, there's an automatic routine linked to a high. So if we understand that, all we have to do is play around with the component parts. Okay, so we can transform. You don't break a habit, you transform a habit with the component parts. So let's say the trigger stays the same, it is stress in this case. Now, if I attach a different routine to that habit or that trigger, stress, something that's actually, I know, is good for me, it gives me the same benefits without the toxins, without the addictive behavior, without the expense, without all of the other things that come with it. And I feel good about the fact, I linger in the fact that I'm actually in control of something here. I'm stronger than the addiction. I'm actually doing something intentionally on purpose that is good for me. That's a high. That high, let's say the routine we attach to stress is now, I close my eyes, I stand outside if I can, I breathe very deeply, and I do something else, right? I look outside, I talk to individuals, I have a social interaction, I go and have a glass of water, I do a quick burst of exercise, I walk around the block, I go around the office, whatever it is, I do a desk chat with my people to build a relationship. And in that moment, I'm very intentional, and I've got the wins about relieving the pressure and the stress about from that moment that was stressing me out. I've moved away from that, but also now I know that I am actually in control, and that's what everybody's striving for, is a sense of control. I'm in control of the habit, I'm in control of my destiny, my health. That feels good. So if we linger in that high that we get when we are intentionally attaching a different routine to stress, something that is actually relaxing me, if I learn to breathe very effectively, I can relax my nervous system. Smoking doesn't do that. It tenses the whole thing. If I'm very intentional here, I can build a new habit. And a new habit, I mean, is something that isn't hard work. It's something that runs automatically and I feel good about. Because what happens is, when I now feel stressed, I crave the high. The cravings we get in habits are the rewards, the high. Okay, in smoking, the transient trick that doesn't go away and makes everything worse. In real terms, it's the high I'm craving of being in control, of actually being intentional, of being very aware, of being very healthy, of living that life. So if you can link stress with a new routine that provides you with a real high, then you can start to crave that real high. And anytime you have stress, your automatic routine, if you do this for a week or two consistently, every single time you feel a stress, and you linger in the high when you do it, you'll start to develop a craving for the high. Now the habit is automatic. And that's how it works. And we can do, if we understand habits, we can do anything. We can create new habits, healthy habits. And what I'm interested in is helping people to form habits of high performance over the long term, whilst maintaining health, maintaining relationships, striving towards their goals, developing, learning, growing, all of those things. So that's a longer post than I usually do. I hope that it impacts you in a positive and a lasting way in some way. Partly that I'm sharing a part of my story here to build a real relationship as I move forward. I hope you come on the journey with me, share some of the challenges that I'm kind of facing at the moment, which I'm embracing fully and loving. And also that you kind of think about habits. What habits have you developed? Maybe look at those 3 component parts. Can you play around? Can you put a new routine attached to that trigger? Can you sense a high when you're doing it? See what it feels like. Just do it and see how it goes. I'd love to hear how you get on if you practice or try any of those things. Please interact with me. Follow me on this video log. Join my YouTube channel, Mind Power Solutions. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of those normal kind of platforms. And above all else, take your life very, very seriously for the precious thing that it is, because it is absolutely wonderful. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll speak again in the not too distant future. Take care.